Hi.
Oh, I was asking Mayo what his favorite Kenyan meal is. He said ugali and pork. What's yours?
Um, Ugali and skuma and beef or eggs.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, that's very simple. Okay, now we have lost him.
Oh.
Very convenient. All right. Maybe you can introduce yourself, tell us what you do, and anything you'd like to know about you.
Oh, wow. The hardest question. Tell me about yourself.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, so my name is Alexander Kinyanjui. I'm a humanitarian, a therapist, and yeah, I think I'll share more about myself as we continue discussing because the topic is just along the lines of evolution. So I've evolved myself from different hats that I've been wearing over the years, and I think during the conversation we might see the evolution and also discuss, how some things can be embraced instead of running away from them because that's one of the things that as men we do best, run away
Yeah.
from change. Yeah.
Okay, I'm a bit curious.
Mhm.
What inspired you to become a therapist?
Oh, I think I had a knack for it when I was young, because having, what do you call them, CBOs, trying and engage people in terms of speaking about things that were a bit uncomfortable. Of course, growing up in a settlement, yeah, urban settlement, commonly referred to as slums, it was a bit challenging to just deal with everything that was happening and have a happy existence. So
Yeah.
some young men were having social gatherings, which are not very formal, but really helped a lot of young men, become stronger, focused, avoid some things like drugs and crime. So it was something that I really enjoyed. I had a mentor. He was called Mwakisaka. So Mwakisaka is, I don't know where he is right now, but he was one of the teenagers I looked up to when I was very young. He was very positive. He lived like a guy who never lived in a slum because how he carried himself, how he dressed, how he viewed the world was with so much optimism and positivity, giving us small talks about sexuality, sex, manhood, growth, and everything that he could think of every weekend. So that really inspired me. I was like, this is a group session. We didn't know we were having a group session by then. And he was just a guy who finished high school, didn't go, to college or something. He was just a guy who was just chilling. But the way he viewed himself was really inspiring. Yeah, I believe he achieved great things because he moved out of the slum and yeah, no contact or anything because he didn't have a phone by then. So I hope he's doing very well wherever he is, but I believe he's doing well.
You might watch this actually. Who knows? So, you've mentioned about like your childhood and growing up, something that you were drawn to. So maybe from a psychologist perspective, what would you say is the evolution of a man, like from childhood, um, teenagehood, adulthood, like especially mentally?
Honestly speaking, we don't evolve as much. Like you can pick the traces of me as a young boy and as an adult, and unlike women who evolve throughout their lives, when they change levels or circumstances, like from a girl to a woman, to a mother, and all that. The stages for men is more or less the same. The only difference is now handling situations and pressures with every stage.
Yeah.
So it's more of a management kind of game and skill rather than something that is there that you're evolving and you're changing from point A to point B. It is
Yeah.
just advancing. So I'll say from boyhood, that's boyhood age, that's below 12, and we have a lot of theories around it. We have Freud, who had his own theories and helped us structure how the mind works and all that. But before getting into all that, just on a normal scale, boyhood, there's a sponge stage, 0 to 12. We emulate everything. Like I remember when I was young, I think around 7, 8 years, I would like to urinate on the walls like the older guys, just because I want to feel manly. So I know it's wrong. I have to go to the toilet, but the fact that they're urinating on a wall or on a tree, I want to
Yeah.
do the same. Just yeah. So that's the sponge state. We absorb everything. So it just depends on where you are. If you are in an environment where negative things happen often or all the time, more like you're more likely to absorb that kind of behavior. So, and emulating and absorbing everything, so it's very silent, but I think young boys observe, and they're trying to be industrious, and they're trying to be important in the family. They're trying to be manly, and in some cultures, they use that stage like 0 to 12. So some boys get circumcised at 12 years. That signifies that you are done with the spawn stage. You've observed and absorbed everything. Now you're moving to teenage or adulthood. So they do it before the teen age. So it's 12. So 13, from 13 and above, they believe that you are becoming a man and sexually evolving, and you might be trying to experience other things like love and physical intimacy and stuff like that. Uh so that's the evolution, like from the beginning. And I don't want us to go maybe very far because I see G is back, so that
Yeah.
we can also go together. And I don't know if he can hear us. I can't see him though.
Can you hear me, guys?
Yeah, we can hear you, but we cannot see you.
Just a minute. I'm trying to. I've had to move from where I was
Hmm.
because the reception was a bit bad.
Hmm.
So I'm just setting up in a different space. But meanwhile, you can just bring me up to speed.
We were just talking about stages and themes of evolution for man. So I talked initially. I talked about my childhood in a nutshell. What inspired me to be a therapist and stuff like that. So I really enjoy the social setting, like social innovations. And that's what we were talking about initially. So I was just trying to answer the stages, and I was telling Liz that we as men, we don't really have stages. We just replace and copy and paste and then replace. We don't really have a lot of changes that happens to our lives, um, that is very significant. If you observe a girl who is 16 years and you observe the same lady at 46, they are two different people. They evolve like completely. But for a man, a 16-year-old guy who liked toys and cars and loud music, most likely you find them having the latest stereos at 46. The
Yeah.
latest rims. Yeah, we just make them bigger. Um, Even the level of attraction, the people that you like, when they say, "Oh, Testiango" and whatnot. So you find more often than not, if a young man is not marrying somebody who looks like their mom, if they are very close to the mom, they might just get somebody they used to admire and stick around the room or their dorms or something. The ladies that they used to get on magazines, and oh, I like this one. So you most likely find them chasing almost the same thing. And it's very funny that I found a photo of my dad when he was before I was born, like when he was in his 20s, and you can see the style of the shirt that he's wearing right now when he's 60 something is almost identical. And you wonder, yeah, he doesn't even notice. Like I was like, do you know you have some clothes that look like this? They're not exactly like the same, but they have the same patterns. He likes the checked boxes and stuff like that. So you can imagine 40, almost 40 years later, he still has the same test.
Just a minute, Alex. I don't know whether it's you or Liz. There's a bit of static from one of you guys. It's mine.
A bit of what?
Static
I think it's from your end.
from my end. Because
But
when you guys talk, I can hear it. It's interfering with
is it me? Yeah, it's me.
you.
Oh,
Yeah, because when you're talking, it's not there. Let me try. Right now?
oh,
Uh,
yeah.
no, because even now when I talk, I can also hear it. So I don't know. Anyway, you can just continue. I'm a bit sensitive, but I think I can power through.
Uh, okay, it's gone, I think. I can't hear it right now.
Yes, me too.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
So that's what I was saying. Just giving a context. So I believe there are other stages. I think it's back. There are other stages, like we have the spawn stage, and then we have the mask stage. That's when young men mask their intentions. That is the teenage area. So we mask what we want, like, oh, I just want to be friends with you, but that's not what I want. Yeah, I want to explore, I want to practice. So yeah, so mentally, I think it's my end.
I think it's mine.
I don't know. I don't know.
Mean it.
Oh yeah, I think maybe we can try muting mics when somebody's talking. We can get where that is. If that's an error from my end. Oh yeah. I hope you can hear me. Ah, great. So I was saying the mask stage. So we are going to talk about maybe the first two stages before G also gives his input, and but the spawn stage, you just absorb everything from 0 to 12. You absorb everything, and you want to look as manly as possible. Yesterday, I was watching the game Tottenham versus Manchester United final, and we were at an establishment. It's like a bar, but it's called Bar Box around Westlands, and of course they sell alcohol and all those things. But there was this man who came with his two sons who are Tottenham fans, and they're all in jerseys. Then these boys look like 8 years, 10 years old, and this they kept saying this is the best night of their lives because they were hanging out with other men, despite them having their own juice and stuff, and guys are having beer, and some people are cursing because they're getting drunk. Like somebody misses a goal and they're like, oh, beep, and they say a word that you might not necessarily say in front of children. But these boys were having the time of their lives. And I remember when Tottenham scored, they were screaming with the guys, and guys hug each other, yeah, yeah, good job, good game. And the Manchester United fans were on the other side. They could also emulate the same, like they were hugging all the guys, random guys, like, yeah, yeah, go, go. And it was so good because they felt like they were adults. And that's the spawn stage. They're absorbing everything they see around. And when the other guys, are trying to banter Manchester United fans, like, "Hey, where's your goal? Where's your coach?" The boys were also, chiming in, like, "Yeah, yeah, we're the best, we're the best." And they haven't even watched football like for more than 2 years, but it was very surreal for them to just experience all these emotions and be with other men and just engage in such. That was beautiful because one of the waiters, who was a lady, initially was a bit judgmental, like, and because the guy was white and with the kids, so she was saying in Swahili, "Huyu ameleta watoto kwa club usiku." So you know, but apparently the father understands, Swahili. He's been working here. He's an expert, so expatriate. So he's been working here for a long time, and he was like, no, they're used to it. They're chilling with their dad. I could not leave them in my house, and I'm all alone with the kids. So this is the only thing I could do, and I cannot watch this game in the house. You have to watch it outside. And she was like, oh, she was a bit embarrassed, like, oh, I didn't know you can you understand Swahili. And so that just paints a picture on how the spawn stage works. The level of confidence that these boys had. Mark, it's a school week, it's a school day. So like it's a weekday, meaning they were going to school today. But that was at least midnight. They left at 12 something. So you can imagine, even if they go to school as tired as they will be tomorrow, they will be feeling so fulfilled that they spent time with men and their father, celebrating a final. And that will be something that we'll talk about for the rest of their lives. Like this, I remember this. I have this memory with my dad. So that's the spawn stage. But when you get to the masking stage, that's when you don't even want to hang out with your father. Because if I'm a teenager, I'm a 16-year-old, and I go out with my father to a club where there are female waiters and the other ladies who are dressed nicely, and my mind will be blown. I'll be checking them out all the time, and I don't want to do that in front of my dad, because I'll also be scrutinizing, like, hey, is my dad watching the girls too? Are we competing on the same pool? So we try to mask our intentions, we try to mask our ideas. That's why you find, teenagers that don't want to spend time with adults, because they're trying to mask how good they are. They were trying to mask their real intentions when they go to a party. Of course, they want to try alcohol, want to try smoking, but you have to mask it like, oh, it's just an innocent party. We're just going to celebrate our friend who's turning 17 and all that. So I think those are the two that I'm going to touch on right now before G comes in and probably chime in and then give us some probably some examples and whatever he has for us today.
I really love the breakdown and how you've given us like a really practical example of how the like men experience those two phases in this one setting. But there's something you've mentioned, and I think we've lost you briefly, but you'll join in. Yeah. About the different pressures. Yeah. So what is maybe one pressure that you say, not one, like a pressure that is consistent from childhood all through? Like there's just that one thing or two or three things that maybe they struggle with, like men struggle with from being a child, teenagehood, and
So it's identity, because you don't want to be the exact duplicate of somebody else, and you don't want also to be so different that everybody notices that you're different. So finding the right balance, that is a challenge, and the right balance usually, in most cases, never comes in a lot of men's lifetime. We never get the right balance, because the time you're getting the balance, you introduce another thing in your life, like a relationship. You're trying to get that balance, you get a new job, or you get a job that you don't really want but has the money, and your passions do not pay. Like, if I am a musician, my passion is singing. I'm not very good, I'm not like BN level, so I cannot make money from my talent, but I really want to do it. So if I do it, I don't get money, because people will not listen to my poor choice of music or style.
mm,
But for me, it's very fulfilling. So what do? I become an accountant. Now, I was getting the balance between my passions, myself, and being genuinely open. And then I get to this point where now I have to change everything, because I have to find food, and now responsibility makes me try and find another level of balance, which is work life balance. And then I have to reduce how much I hate my boss, and balance between how friendly do I become with my colleagues and stuff like that, before I start now comparing myself again to my classmates who are doing well, making money, probably challenging me in a positive way, but I don't see it as a positive way. So getting the right balance, that's something that cuts across all, I think, all the stages, and all in a man's lifetime. Like, it's always something that is, yeah,
would
a
you say
constant
that
battle.
ego is
Yeah.
would you say that ego is a contributor to that?
Come again.
Would you say that ego is a contributor to that?
Yeah, but that's how we build. So ego is essential. It's like the engine. And one of the things that actually differentiates a man and male and female, not even a man and a woman, but just male and female. It's that ego, and feeding it, massaging it, or just taking care of it, that it's a healthy kind of ego that does not need all these unnecessary burdens or attention.
Yeah.
It's a challenge. It's a very tough challenge. And maybe I can just break down, the ego in terms of the mind is actually the
Yeah.
midpoint between the super ego and the id. That's the three levels of the mind. So
Mm.
the id is that the natural, the animalistic part of us, the natural part of us, the automation part of us, like eating, drinking, uh, things like sex, uh, excreting, all that, or anything that is an animal can do and we can do. That's it. That means our passions, attractions, everything. That's the id. Then we have the ego now. No, let's go to the super ego first because the ego is in the middle. So the super ego is the executive function in on steroids. Let's call it like that. That means that doing things to perfection level. Like you can do something like in a normal way, but you want to do it in an extraordinary way, just making sure that it is perfect, it's cut, it's clear, it's clearly cut and set. So that is one of the challenges, that you can't not be in both extremes. Like if you now if a man behaves in an id way, we take you to hospital because you are not considering other people around you. That means if you want to poop, you just poop anywhere. If you want to
Mm.
eat, just eat anything, like animals do. You don't need to get a special place like a toilet to go to and do your stuff. Then if it's super ego, you're robotic. You're robotic, like I have to do this, and you're very robotic, you're not flexible at all. Now that's where the ego comes in. So the ego
Mm.
is a balance between the super ego and the id, where you balance the both ends and make things simpler, make you civilized. That means society accepts you. Like if you want to eat, you eat from something like a bowl or something. If you want to help yourself, you don't do it in front of people on the road. You have to find a nice secret place and do your stuff. Yeah, exactly. So the ego, the same thing happens in now the ego, the man's ego, how they feel about themselves. It's just striking the balance between being extremely robotic and too perfect. When you're too perfect, even things like attraction don't happen because then there's nothing else like the small errors and the small imperfections make people beautiful. So you're not even a beautiful man, you're not even a handsome, you're not even engaging or exciting because you are too perfect. You're not beautiful at all. And when you're too rough and raw, that means that you lack basic mannerisms. That means if I want to touch somebody, I can just touch somebody because I'm acting like an animal. If I get angry, I can bite like a dog. I can fight. I don't need to use my brain. So I have to adhere to the laws and regulations, and what encompasses a society,
Yeah.
you know. Yeah. So that's the balance. So the ego is constantly trying to balance, not change but balance, as I mentioned, no changing but just balancing act all through. Yeah.
Wow, wow, wow. I love it. Sorry because my wife has decided to do that.
It's okay. Yeah.
Um, so would you say that culture plays a role in how men show up generally?
Oh yeah. Yeah, it does in a big way actually, because looking at cultures, different cultures bring different experiences, and some are toxic, but we grow up with them and adapt later in life when we have the free will and choice to do what we want. But before then, we have to adhere to the how culture presents a man. So sometimes in other cultures, a man is presented as a provider, which is in most cultures and societies. A man supposed to provide, a man supposed to protect, a man supposed to. It's unhealthy, but a man supposed to bottle up their feelings and not express themselves. They need to take control and be in control almost all the time. They need to find a balance. They need to understand other people, not to be understood, and they have to be the last in everything. Like if it's women and children first, and then men. So even if you don't have a woman or a child in a setting, you have to let the women and children who don't even belong to you go first, and then you. So culture plays a very huge role, and you can see the difference between men from different regions, like West Africa, South Africa, East Africa, and then Europe, and any other place. You can see how culture defines them. And this brings another aspect where we see men who decide to not traditionally date women, like men who are not heterosexual. So culture also plays a role, and when you find somebody who's willing to talk about their experiences and journey, especially if they are from Africa, you realize that when they talk about culture, so culture makes sure that you suppress whatever you're feeling, whatever your sexuality is, and every other thing. You have to suppress it and adhere to the social norms and the cultural norms that are there. And unless you get out and do your own thing, and now you become a villain. And some family members don't even want to interact with men who come out as gay,
Yeah.
because they are like, no, this is not part of our culture. So it's not about they don't like it or they like it. They don't even have an opinion. Sometimes they don't. It's just because of other people and how culture has, modified us. So like culturally, we don't accept you guys. So, but we like you, we love you. We've grown up together. So those are the other challenges. So culture plays a very huge role on the stages. But as I mentioned earlier, the evolution always happens when things change, stages of life change, but the person does not really change. That's why you find when you talk to a person who probably was heterosexual before and now he's not. You, they already knew from back then, but it's just I have to play a balancing role either with the ego, and make sure that I suppress my feelings and ensure that everybody's comfortable first around me before I get comfortable myself. So that's the women and children first before the man.
Mm. I love what you wrote about the like men being told to prioritize women and children, and how African culture has taught, or rather has pushed the agenda of men bottling up the emotions. Like even a small boy, if you fall, you're not supposed to cry. If you're beaten, you're supposed to hit the other kid. Like be a man, quote unquote, stand up for yourself. How is that detrimental to the mental wellness of a man, like generally?
Oh, it's something that is very hard to unlearn. That's the first thing. So when men get their way after coming from such backgrounds, and now they find that they have the money to change things, they have the capacity and the money, and also the resources, information. You can have the money and lack resources. When they have all these things, the journey is very hard. Get they make two steps forward, one step backwards, or five step backwards every time, and especially
Yeah,
during therapy, because these are things that are ingrained in you as a child. By the time you get comfortable crying because you've been injured, even you can break your leg and somebody's just telling you, no, don't cry. And funny thing, like from my culture, when we were getting circumcised, they will stop circumcising you. Traditionally, they will stop circumcising you if you start crying. So you have to cry later. Like you can cry like 2 hours later because everybody's just watching, and then so you have to hold it.
yeah,
And one of the ways that the young men, you're being told that if you don't want to cry, don't drink a lot of water. That the few days before, so you're dehydrated so that you don't cry. Like even if you're crying, no tears. So that's a strategy, but I don't think it works. But trying to make sure that your ego is, your uncle see you as a real man,
yeah.
and you have to suppress.
So you can share the last question. One of I think the third question you asked, Alex. I can't. I just wait for you.
we were talking about the importance of a father figure in a man's life. Like there's an example you gave for communicating, like when a wife is communicating to a man and another man tells them the same thing, it will settle this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yes, there's a huge importance of having a not just a father, because yes, the father might be there or maybe they're dead. Now what do you do? So I remember when I was younger, was I even a teenager at the time? Maybe a preteen. We had a very candid conversation with my father, and I remember him telling me, I'll not always be there, to hold your hand. But this is what I can tell you at this stage. Okay? Learn to talk less and listen more. Learn to pick lesson from other people's mistakes. Don't wait for you to make such a mistake so that you learn a lesson. You can learn those lessons by observing. Okay? So listen, talk less, observe. Okay? And if at any point you need to talk to someone, there's always someone who's ready to hear you out. Now, the other day I was reflecting on this conversation, like, okay, and I realized that he was confident enough that up to that stage, he raised me well to be able to identify men, older men who can actually speak into my life. So him communicating that to me was his expression of the faith he has in me, his expression of the confidence he has in how much he had put in my life up to that stage for me to be able to move forward, even if he were to die at that point. Okay. Now, and true to this, years later, he actually left. He had to make a decision as a family, and he left to take care of his aging father. And had we not had that conversation then, I think I wouldn't have managed to go through that season, because remembering these words that he spoke to me, I always found older men who've gone ahead of me, who could speak into my life, who could be my mentors, and who could be the male figure, the father figures in my life. And the biggest role those men played till now is, one, I use them as a sounding board. Two, they come in as they do what is I call signposting. So because of the experiences they have, they know that as much as they are working with me, whatever they are communicating to me is not a one size fits all. So they hear you out and they just signpost you into the right direction and leave the final decision making to you. So I've always had such male figures. And in another stage that I went through, and my dad spoke to it, and I remember his words were, for instance, him saying, there are always people you can talk to and whatnot. He may have, if you look at it in a different way, he may have forfeited his opportunity, or rather his responsibility, to play certain roles in my life, of course. Now, do I get the same from other men? Yes. But now there are things that can only come from him that will make sense to me. He might not be out of experience or anything, but that just because he's my father, there are things that will have to come specifically from him for it to make sense to me. So there's a lot of importance of having father figures. If you've ever been in a home where, of course, it's